"You're dry in bed," my husband said. Then I asked why my number was saved as side chick.
He said it like it was nothing. Like 7 years of my life meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. And I sat there in that kitchen, coffee going cold in my hands, and I made a decision so quiet he didn't even notice it happening. By the time Derek understood what I had decided, it was already done. The house, the cars, the savings account he thought I didn't know the full balance of, all of it, gone from his reach forever. And the woman he gave up everything for, she was already gone too. Stay with me, because this is not just a story about betrayal. This is a story about a woman who stopped shrinking, picked up every piece of herself, and left a man with nothing but the consequences of his own choices. Before I go any further, if this story hits you the way I think it's going to, take a second right now to subscribe, like, and share this video. Only if it moves you. Only if you think someone else needs to hear it tonight. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. My name is Vanessa, and before I tell you what Derek said that night in our kitchen, I need you to understand who I was inside that marriage, because the woman who walked out of it looks nothing like the woman who walked in. I met Derek at 26. He was funny and confident, and he made me feel chosen. That's the word I always used back then, chosen. Like, out of everyone he could have picked, he saw me. I held on to that feeling for years, even as everything around it slowly changed. We got married at 28, bought our first home at 30. On paper, everything looked exactly the way it was supposed to look. But paper doesn't tell you about the quiet, the way a marriage can hollow itself out from the inside while the outside stays perfectly intact. Derek was not a loud man. He didn't shout, he didn't throw things. His damage was the other kind, the kind that arrives in small doses so consistently that you stop noticing its damage at all. A comment about my weight here, a joke about my cooking there, an eye roll when I talked about my day, a sigh when I wanted to be close to him. I told myself every couple goes through phases. I told myself he was stressed at work. I told myself I could be better, more patient, more understanding, more everything he seemed to need me to be. I worked full-time as an account manager at a marketing firm. I paid half of everything in that house. I kept our home, managed our calendar, remembered every birthday in both our families, and still somehow felt like I was never quite enough. But I stayed because I had made a promise, because I believed in us, because leaving felt like failure, and I had never been good at failing. There were good moments, I want to be honest about that. Vacations where Derek was the man I married again. Sunday mornings where everything felt easy and light. Moments that kept me believing the distance between us was temporary, that if I just held on a little longer, we would find our way back to each other. I held on for a long time. Looking back now, I understand that hope can be the thing that keeps you in a room you should have left years ago. Not weakness, not stupidity, hope. The stubborn, loving, completely human belief that the person you chose is still in there somewhere and just needs more time. Derek did not need more time. Derek needed consequences, and he was about to get them. Then came the night everything changed. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special about it. We had dinner, watched some TV, and somewhere around 10 o'clock, Derek made a comment, casual, almost offhand, that I was tired and should just go to bed. I asked him what was wrong. He had been distant for weeks, and I was tired of pretending not to notice. He put his phone face down on the coffee table. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen on him before. Not anger, not frustration, but something worse, boredom. And then he said it. Honestly, Vanessa, you're dry in bed. You've always been dry. I don't know how to tell you that without it being a whole thing, but that's the truth. The room went completely silent. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. Something in me just stilled, the way water goes still right before it freezes.
I want you to understand what that moment felt like. 7 years. 7 years of cooking his meals and managing his schedule and defending him to people who tried to warn me, and showing up every single day, even when he made it hard. 7 years of shrinking and adjusting and telling myself it would get better. And he summed all of it up with, "You're dry." I sat with that for exactly 3 seconds. Then I picked up his phone from the coffee table. He had set it down unlocked, intending to hand it back to him. And that is when I saw it, right there on the screen, his open contacts. My name in his phone was not Vanessa. It was not Babe. It was not any of the names a husband saves his wife under after 7 years of marriage. It said side chick. I put the phone down slowly. I looked at him across the coffee table, and I asked, very quietly, very steadily, why my number was saved as side chick in his phone. The color left his face so fast it was almost impressive.
He tried to explain. Of course he did. It was a joke from years ago. It was an old contact he forgot to change. It was nothing. I was overreacting. I was being sensitive. I was making a big deal out of something that meant nothing. I let him talk. I sat there with my hands folded in my lap, and I let every word come out of his mouth, and I listened to all of it, and I watched him carefully, the way his eyes moved, the way he kept reaching for his phone and then stopping himself, the way his voice had a particular quality it gets when he is managing a situation rather than telling the truth. I had spent 7 years learning that voice. When he was finished, I said exactly 7 words. "I need you to sleep somewhere else tonight." He tried to keep talking. I stood up, walked to our bedroom, closed the door quietly behind me, and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. I was not falling apart. That surprised me more than anything he had said. I kept waiting for the tears, the shaking, the collapse. Instead, what came was something I had not felt in years. Clarity, sharp and cold and completely steady, like a compass needle finally finding north after spinning for a long time. I thought about every comment over 7 years, every sigh, every eye roll, every moment I had quietly bent myself into something smaller, trying to be enough for a man who had apparently decided long ago that I was a supporting character in my own marriage. I thought about the phone, the contact name, the casual, almost lazy cruelty of it, that he hadn't even bothered to hide it properly, like it didn't occur to him that I would ever look, like I wasn't worth the basic effort of concealment. That detail, that carelessness, was somehow the thing that hurt the most, and also the thing that made me the most certain. I called my sister. Then I called a lawyer. What Derek did not know, what he had never bothered to pay close enough attention to know, was that I had been the financial anchor of our household for the last 4 years. My income had grown significantly, while his had plateaued. The house was purchased with a down payment that came largely from my savings. My name was on every major account. The cars, both of them, were financed under my credit. The joint savings account held money that, when traced back to its source, was majority mine. My lawyer was very thorough. She was a woman named Patricia, who had been recommended to me by a colleague at work. She was calm, precise, and completely unimpressed by Derek's attorney's attempts to reframe the narrative. She had seen everything before, and she was not moved by any of it. Derek hired an attorney too. He came into that process confident, the way men do when they assume the other person is too emotional to be strategic. He thought I was going to fall apart in mediation. He thought I was going to cry and settle for something reasonable just to make the pain stop faster. He thought the woman he had called dry and saved as side chick was going to make this easy for him. He was wrong about all of it. In the early weeks of the process, Derek tried to negotiate. He wanted to split things down the middle, the house, the savings, everything equal.
Patricia laid out the documentation quietly and methodically, the paper trail of contributions, the down payment receipts, the account histories, the financing records on both vehicles. Equal was not accurate, and accurate was what the court was going to care about. The settlement took 4 months. Derek pushed back at every stage. He got frustrated, he got loud in ways he had never been loud at home. I think the loss of control did something to him that surprised even himself. But frustration and volume are not legal arguments, and Patricia did not negotiate with either. By the end of it, Derek walked away with his personal belongings, his car payments transferred entirely to his name with 0 equity built up, and a bank account that had been divided in a way that reflected exactly whose money had actually built it. I kept the house. I kept the primary savings. I kept the life we had constructed together because I was the one who had actually constructed it, brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck, year by year, while he was busy deciding I wasn't enough. Derek moved into a 1-bedroom apartment across town, 41 years old, starting from 0. But the house and the savings were not even the worst of it for Derek. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, he lost his job. His company had been going through restructuring for months, something I had known about because Derek used to talk to me about work before he stopped talking to me about anything real. The department he managed was flagged for elimination during the restructuring review. While Derek had been focused on attorneys and court dates and trying to salvage something from the divorce, he had taken his eye completely off the job he needed more than ever. He was given a severance package and walked out of a building he had worked in for 6 years, carrying a box of desk items and a folder of paperwork. No income, a 1-bedroom apartment he was already stretching to afford, no savings cushion to absorb any of it, and a credit profile that now reflected 2 car payments and none of the assets that used to balance them. He was in genuine financial trouble within 60 days of the divorce being finalized. And the woman he had been seeing, the one whose existence the phone contact made obvious, even though he never admitted it out loud during the entire process, she did not stay for any of it. I heard through a mutual friend that she was gone within 2 months of Derek's job loss. Apparently, the version of Derek she had been interested in, the one with the nice house and the good income and the confidence that comes from a stable life someone else helped build, was not the same man now sitting in a half-furnished apartment, refreshing his LinkedIn and eating takeout alone. She had not signed up for starting from 0. She had signed up for what she thought he was, and what he was, it turned out, had been largely constructed on a foundation I built, and he had just walked away from. He lost her, too. Derek was completely, utterly alone. No wife, no home, no job, no savings, no relationship. Everything he had casually dismissed and taken for granted, gone. All of it, at the same time. I heard he called his mother crying the night the woman left. I heard that from my sister, who heard it from someone who knew his family. I did not feel satisfaction when I heard it. What I felt was something quieter than that. Something that felt like, of course, this was always where that road led. He just didn't see it. He called me on a Thursday evening about 8 months after the divorce. I almost didn't answer. I stared at his name on my screen for 4 full rings, and something, not hope, not weakness, just a kind of completion instinct, made me pick up. He sounded like a different person, smaller, hollowed out in a way I recognized because I had felt it myself, just for different reasons. He talked for a long time about how hard things had been, about how much he had lost, about the mistakes he made and how clearly he could see them now from where he was standing, about how he missed our home, about how he missed having someone who actually knew him. And then, quietly, he said he missed me. He said he was sorry, that he had taken me for granted in ways he couldn't fully articulate, that he understood now, really understood, what he had walked away from, that if he could do it over, he would do everything differently. I let him finish, every word. And then I took a breath and I said, calmly, without anger, without tears, with nothing but the steady certainty of a woman who has done the work of rebuilding herself from the inside out. Derek, you sat across from me in our living room and told me I was dry. You saved my number in your phone as side chick. You made it extremely clear what you thought I was worth. So I need you to hear me when I say this. I cannot give you a good life because, according to you, I was never good enough. Go find your main chick. Go build something with her. I genuinely hope she gives you everything you decided I couldn't. Do not call this number again. Silence on the other end. Then the call ended. He called twice more that week. I watched both calls go to voicemail without a second thought. Whatever he had to say, I had already heard the only version of it that mattered, the one he said when he thought it would cost him nothing. That was the real Derek, the one from the Tuesday night in the kitchen, not this one, not the one made small by consequences. I owed that version of him nothing. If you are still here with me right now, drop a comment and tell me, did Derek deserve every single thing that happened to him? Because I want to read what you think. And if you know a Vanessa, someone holding everything together for someone who doesn't see them, please share this video to her tonight. Let me finish the story.
12 months after that Tuesday night in the kitchen, my life looked like this. I was still in my house. I had repainted the living room a deep sage green, a color I had wanted for 3 years that Derek had vetoed every single time because he preferred beige. I had taken a long weekend trip with my sister and 2 friends I had let drift during the years I was busy managing my marriage. I had rejoined a book club I quit in year 4 of the marriage because Derek found it annoying that I went out on Thursday evenings. I had gotten the promotion I had been working toward for 2 years, the one I kept putting at the back of my focus because the emotional labor of my marriage was consuming the energy it needed. Without that weight, I had shown up to work differently, fully, and people noticed. I was not dating. I was not looking. I was not performing recovery for anyone's benefit. I was just present in my own life, taking up the full space of it without apology for the first time in years. And it felt like something I had forgotten was possible. It felt like enough. It felt like more than enough. Here is what I want to leave you with, because I didn't tell this story just to tell it. The most dangerous relationship is not the loud one. It is not the one with the dramatic fights and the obvious red flags. The most dangerous relationship is the quiet one, the one where someone chips away at your sense of yourself so gradually, so consistently, that you lose the ability to see what's happening while it's happening. Derek never screamed at Vanessa, he just diminished her, comment by comment, sigh by sigh, contact name by contact name, until she had made herself so small trying to fit what he needed that she almost forgot she was the one holding the whole thing up. The moment she stopped shrinking was the moment everything shifted. Here is what I also know. The folder matters. The preparation matters. Vanessa did not walk into that divorce unprepared. She had spent years, maybe without even fully knowing why, paying attention, knowing her accounts, understanding her contributions, building a professional life that was hers regardless of what happened at home. When the moment came, she had something to stand on. So if you are in a relationship where you are constantly being made to feel like less, where your contributions are invisible and your presence is taken for granted, and someone who should see your value has decided instead to catalog your flaws, I am not here to tell you what to do. But I am asking you to pay attention to yourself, to your accounts, to your contributions, to the life you have been quietly building. Because when clarity comes, and it always comes, you deserve to have something solid underneath you when you stand up. You were never the side chick. You were always the foundation. And some people only understand what they had when they are standing in the rubble of what they destroyed. If Vanessa's story moved you tonight, please subscribe to this channel right now.
Every single week, I bring you stories about real people who found their strength in the moments that were supposed to break them, and I do not want you to miss one. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight, and leave a comment. Tell me the exact moment in this story that hit you the hardest. I'll see you in the next story.